Welcome. I'm Betsy Sweetenberg, the pastor of Northridge Presbyterian Church, and I'm excited that you're joining the Northridge Podcast, a sermon-based podcast featuring the previous week's sermon. Northridge Presbyterian Church aims to inspire transformative faith through relevant worship, extravagant generosity, and compassionate community. And I trust that you will understand more of our community through this worship podcast.
Today we are singing hymns and also speaking them. And I don't want to speak long because I think the scriptures and the hymns themselves tell the story that we need to tell today. We recognize the power that music has on our lives and our faith journeys. Hymns, of course, are written to be sung and usually together in a group of people. Because of that, singing hymns is participatory. It asks you to give something of yourself, and it's a communal act. When we sing, we engage with our whole bodies. Singing affects our lungs and our breathing. It affects our hearts and the rhythm of our heartbeats. Singing affects our minds and our thinking, our feelings, and our imagination. If you read the newsletter on Friday, you may have seen in there that I wrote about the research that scientists have done on what happens to our bodies and brains, not just when we sing, but when we sing in a group with other people. And what they discovered is that when people sing together, the cardiac and respiratory patterns synchronize between people. Our hearts begin to beat together, and our breathing aligns with one another. We are connected in ways we cannot see. Talk about the body of Christ coming to life. Now, when we look at the Bible, and if you think about songs in the Bible, it's natural to go to the book of Psalms, because a psalm, of course, was written originally as a hymn to be sung, and we have 150 hymns right there in the book of Psalms. But songs and hymns are woven throughout the entire Bible. We already heard the beginning of Miriam's song after the Israelites were saved from the Red Sea. Miriam sang a song of praise to God after their deliverance. And in just a moment, we will hear more. The angels sang after the birth of Jesus. And even in the letters in the New Testament, we can't get away from song. In the second chapter of Philippians, there is a piece there known as the Christ hymn. Our passage this morning from Zephaniah is not one that I would typically go to when I was thinking about songs in the Bible. And if I'm being honest, I don't go to Zephaniah all that often. It might be because the book begins with judgment over the sins of Israel, and it is all about judgment. It's about the wrath of God and the destruction. It is not a happy story. But then we get to the passage we heard today, and we see again that God does not turn away from God's people. God does not turn away. In the words of Ann Stewart, despite the people's indifference, despite their hypocrisy, despite the cause for cosmic judgment, God's entry into the world brings celebration, restoration, and new life. And so there is a reason to sing praise. There is a reason to rejoice and sing. I want to share just one story written by Anne Lamott in one of her earlier books on faith. And this is what Anne writes. One of our newer members, a man named Ken Nelson, is dying of AIDS. disintegrating before our very eyes. He came in a year ago with a Jewish woman who comes every week to be with us, although she does not believe in Jesus. Shortly after the man with AIDS started coming, his partner died of the disease. A few weeks later, Ken told us that right after Brandon died, Jesus had slid into the hole in his heart that Brandon's loss left and had been there ever since. Ken has a totally lopsided face, ravaged and emaciated, but when he smiles, he is radiant. He looks like God's crazy nephew, Phil. He says that he would gladly pay any price for what he has now, which is Jesus and us. There's a woman in the choir named Renola, who is large and beautiful and jovial and black and as devout as can be, who has been a little standoffish toward Ken. She has always looked at him with confusion when she looks at him at all. Or she looks at him sideways as if she wouldn't have to quite see him if she didn't look at him head on. She was raised in the South by Baptists who taught her that his way of life, that he was an abomination. It's hard for her to break through this. I think she and a few other women at church are, on the most visceral level, a little afraid of catching the disease. But Kenny has come to church almost every week for the last year and won almost everyone over. He finally missed a couple of Sundays when he got too weak, and then a month ago he was back, weighing almost no pounds, his face even more lopsided. Still, during the prayers of the people, he talked joyously of his life and his decline, of grace and redemption, of how safe and happy he feels these days. So on this one particular Sunday, for the first hymn, we sang Jacob's Ladder, which ironically goes, every rung goes higher, higher, while ironically Kenny couldn't even stand up. But he sang anyway, sitting down with a hymnal in his lap. And then when it came time for the second hymn, we were to sing, His Eye is on the Sparrow. The pianist was playing and the whole congregation had risen. Only Ken remained seated, holding the hymnal in his lap, and we began to sing. Why should I feel discouraged? Why do the shadows fall? And Renola watched Ken rather skeptically for a moment, and then her face began to melt and contort like his. And she went to his side and bent down to lift him up. Lifted up this white rag doll, this scarecrow. She held him next to her, draped over her and against her like a child while they sang, and it pierced me. I can't imagine anything but music that could have brought about this alchemy. Maybe it's because music is about as physical as it gets. Your essential rhythm is your heartbeat. Your essential sound, the breath. We're walking temples of noise. And when you add tender hearts to this mix, it somehow lets us meet in places we couldn't get to any other way. Friends, let us continue to sync our hearts and our breath as we participate in the great story of God's mighty acts.
Thank you for joining us today. If you're able, I hope that you will join us for worship in person. We would love to be able to welcome you on Sunday morning. We also delight at the opportunity to plug people into this community in meaningful ways. We always have a slew of faith formation and mission and study opportunities, and you can find more information about what is happening today on our website, northridgepc.org. If you would like to support the mission and ministry of Northridge Presbyterian Church, you can do that through our website as well using the Give tab. It is your gifts that allow us to continue this podcast ministry. God bless you.